All right, guys, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Impossible Moments mini-series podcast. You guys know him and love him from our previous episode. He is the owner of the school community Making Human Skills Matter. He is trained in so many human skills, particularly emotional control and regulation, but as well as leadership, and how leadership that you can bring to your own team can drastically change the dynamics and workings of your team. But even more than that, how you as just a human can learn to lead yourself and lead those around you, which is a very important human skill, regardless of whether you are in a high-level leadership position or you are in an entry-level position. Everybody in an organization is called to be a leader in their own right. And so you can learn how to grab those skills today, integrate them into your own daily life, into your own practice, especially if you own a school community. You will learn how to help lead that community and drive sales to it. But I wanted to take a moment to welcome Mr. Daniel Halls. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you letting me on for another time. Obviously, the audience enjoyed last time, so hopefully we can give a bit more value this time.
Yeah. I love it, man. It was a great episode. And you just have so much to offer people. And I'm really excited about what we're going to chat about today, because you put up a post, just to give the listeners a little bit of background. Dan put up a post, it's been about a week ago or so now, I would say, where he was talking about how outside of the school communities, he has a workshop program that he goes around and sells to local businesses or organizations, where he basically comes in and says, hey, I will train your people to be leaders, and here's the cost of it. And I'll let you go more in depth as far as like what you offer through the program, where the true value lies. But he's noticing that he sees a lot of businesses saying, oh, we just don't have the budget for that right now. It's a little bit confusing, because I think what's happening there is not that they don't have the budget, and definitely not that they don't see the value. I think what's happening is they're allowing this limitation to pop up before they've even considered the ROI, before they've even truly assessed the situation and asked, how can we find the budget to make this work? They are just allowing limitations to pop up. And we do this in our own lives. We are trained by society to see limitation first. And we see limitation, we feel fear. And then when we give into that fear response, and it's an immediate no, before anything really is considered. And so we want to dive into this thought process of both as a school community owner looking to sell value through your community, and as an individual who may be part of a team that has to make decisions like this, value cost decisions. How do we get ourselves to a place where we aren't focusing on the immediate limitations of the situation? Rather, we move past that and say, hey, this is an immense value opportunity. How can we make this work? And I think there's two sides to that, and there's a lot of good discussion to be had in there. But with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Dan here and let him chat about what he does, and let us know kind of just what you've been seeing from these businesses you go to with your workshops, Dan.
Yeah. So back to the blog, it was a bit more of a tongue-in-cheek curiosity sort of blog that I started. I've got a second part coming out next week. Later this week, about what essentially the first call I get before anyone even asks about the prices. We don't have a budget for it. And so that just put the curiosity in me out there and put the blog out asking what it is.
Wait, they don't even know the price yet, and they're saying they don't have the budget for it?
Yep.
So that definitely confirms, I don't mean to interrupt, but that definitely confirms what we were talking about there. They are allowing fear and limitation to hit before they even understand an entire half of the dynamic here. Yeah. That's wild to me. I had to highlight that, but go on.
No, that's fine. So I talk about in the phone calls that I have, is I just explain, I'm a nurse, I've worked in high pressure environments. My goal is to help your leaders become better versions of themselves, like I'm doing in my own workplace, helping people with emotional intelligence, being able to deal with conflict, what everyday leadership even looks like. Resistance to change models is always a big one for a lot of organizations. Like, it's very hard to implement things without dealing with some form of emotion from your team. And then one thing that's become really big in my part of the world, in Melbourne, Victoria, is that the government's brought in some rules and regulations about implementing strategies to improve psychological safety and preventing psychological hazards within the workplace. I'm just going to run a couple of quick stats that are relevant to our state, but it might be relevant similar to most people around the world. Is 85% of employees withhold important information from their managers due to fear or what they're going to say. 17% of Victorian workplaces in 24-25, 17% of the injuries were mental health related. And then 24%, as a positive side of things, is 24% boost in employee engagement of psychological safety, improved team output. So there are statistics out there at the moment, but they're not quite mainstream yet. And so my goal to help these places is you just need to give your employees an opportunity to take on the leadership role. A thing that I get a lot is people feel like they need permission to lead in a workplace, but leadership is an accumulation of just doing little things every day, whether it's as small as saying thank you to a colleague, or I can give you half of my cup today because I'm feeling a bit better than probably what you are. It's taking on that conversation that probably no one else has had the confidence to do. So my workshops that I have are teaching people at little increments, putting in the reps of having a challenging conversation and using a framework to make it easier. I always go back to, and this is probably you're close to you with, like in the gym world, someone who's never been to the gym before is going to be very overwhelmed when they're trying to use a piece of equipment.
What's up, guys? It's Matt. I hope you are enjoying this powerful episode on the Impossible Podcast. If you like what's happening on this episode, I was hoping I could get 30 seconds of your time to tell you about an opportunity we have for you to dive deeper into this conversation off the camera. We have built an online community on school.com where we dive deep into these lessons we learn on the Impossible Podcast, as well as help you integrate the lessons we teach with Impossible Performance into your own life. This is a space where you can have powerful discussions, expand beyond topics that we talk about on the episode, and most powerfully, it helps you to take control of the narrative you have for your life and write a new story for yourself about who you are. We have courses built in on how to leverage all 4 domains of performance, as well as a lot of the integrative teachings that we provide in Impossible Performance. We do monthly group calls where we all hop on and chat about a subject and how it's reflected in our own lives and how we can learn and grow from each other. This is a powerful new space on the cutting edge of what it's going to be able to offer, but it stands apart from any other social media or online community because of its ability to generate and foster true, authentic human connection, which is what we're all about at Impossible Performance. So if you guys want to join us and dive deeper into these discussions, into what we do at Impossible Performance, and equip yourself to be able to face any impossible challenge or achieve any impossible goal in your own life, we hope to see you there. Use the link school.com/impossible or click the top link in the show notes. Thank you guys for being a part of what we do. Thank you for always being impossible. Now let's get back to the episode. We talked about this yesterday. The gym transfers over to everything pretty much. You've got to go. It's not like you're just going to go through an event or a scenario at work and have a mental health injury, for example, let's say, and then all of a sudden you just watch one 10-minute YouTube video and then it's all done, you're all okay, and you've got all the skills you need to figure it out. It's not that easy. I don't know why we would ever expect it to be. And in fact, a lot of times these mental and psychological injuries can be more damaging and more challenging to heal from than physical injury. So why we would think we wouldn't need somebody who's trained and prepared and can train the staff to be able to prepare for this. Ideally, you prepare them ahead of time so that the injury never occurs, or at least if it does, they're far more well equipped to heal from it. But because a lot of places employ, they have offers for employee wellness as far as physical health goes, but they don't ever focus on the mental health side nearly as much. So I'm glad that you're making that offer and coming in. And I do want to I want to see, how do we get to a place, do you think, where we can translate this value and really help people understand the value to this? The statistics are powerful, I think, but how do we, as community owners or as just people in general, how do we help starting our organizations to see the value here?
Well, I guess I think the best way to kind of improve these sort of things is that you need to make your teams aware of it first. So one thing I do for organizations at the moment to make it a bit easier for them before they jump in and make a decision is I'm just going to give you a flyer to put in your hallway at work, just for your team to read it. Because if you may say it's not a value of the moment, but if you've got 20 staff out of 30 going, we want to talk about this stuff, then when you escalate it to the people above that are making the financial decisions, you're going to do your service duty as a manager and leader to go, hey, my team want this. Let's make it happen. The one thing that I keep finding when I keep looking into different blogs and journal articles and all that is a lot of industries are very quick to react to something. So somebody packs up and says, I quit. Somebody says, I'm burnt out. Some psychological hazards happen to a staff member. They find budget to fix that problem. Similar to plumbing, like if you've got a pipe that bursts, you find money to be able to do it. But were you putting in the maintenance in the first place to keep those pipes, healthy and in place? It's the same thing with your people. You got to put the maintenance into your people to be able to prevent those catastrophic things from happening. So that's one thing that I bring in. It's like yes, at the moment it seems like a bit of a daunting task, but think about it. If you weren't maintaining your pipes that are in the budget, you're going to have a catastrophic event with a flooding of a room that's going to cost you way more money down the track than paying the $200 plumber fee every other month or whatever it is, So I'm trying to put it in context of layman's terms for the people there. It's like, well, you find money when there's emergency. So there's money there somewhere. So a little bit of an investment now may save you X amount over a period of time.
Yeah, that's a really powerful point. And it really helps to think of it in those terms, because really all these limitations and fears they're creating are false, as is true with most limitations we create in our mind. Because like you said, they're very quick to spend reactively, which is always going to be so much more expensive than spending proactively. It's the same thing I think of like with nutrition. There's so many people, the number one thing I hear from people is when they're talking about, man, I wish I could eat healthier, but I just don't have the money for it. There's this idea in society that eating healthfully is extremely, extraordinarily expensive. And it certainly can be if you go down to, well, we have Whole Foods. I don't know what you guys have in Australia, but the organic market and buy, just the imported fancy organic stuff, it can be. But you can also buy locally grown organic stuff at farmers markets that's cheaper than anything you're going to buy in the grocery store. And so I tell people is, look, you can come to me and I will design for you a nutrition program that is cheaper than you pay for fast food and eating out or whatever else you're eating now. You tell me how much you're paying per week right now, and I guarantee I will build a program for you that is cheaper, if you stick to it, is cheaper than what you're doing now. 100% guarantee. Or you could keep going down the path you're going on now, spend more money, and eventually it's going to hit a breaking point where you, God forbid, I don't want this to happen to anybody, but if you go down this path of eating unhealthfully for long enough, you face cardiovascular disease, you face diabetes, face all these things. And then you have to spend way more money reactively for your medications, for your hospital care, for your whatever care may come up that you needed. And so it's like that excuse is actually completely false. It's just something that's being created in people's minds as, oh, this is something I don't want to do. This is something that I don't think I can do. I don't have it accessible to me. And here's an easy, convenient excuse that gets me off the hook, essentially. And I think that's the same dynamic it sounds like is coming here. So I wonder where the true holdup is, because I can't imagine they don't see the value. I don't think it's they don't see that there's value in it. I don't think we've established clearly that it's not the cost, because they don't even know the cost going into it. But even if they did, as we just discussed, it's actually a preventative cost. It's saving them money in the long run. So that's not a valid excuse. I think where it's coming is really from a place of fear of doing something uncomfortable, doing something challenging. Because when you go through leadership training, good leadership training, it's going to challenge you a little bit. It's going to push you a little bit outside of that comfort zone that you feel emotionally. And you're going to have to take in new skills. You may have to confront some parts of yourself that don't feel fully comfortable either. So do you think that's maybe a major holdup, is that people are like, we've got this kind of mindset rooted in us still, that we're a little bit afraid to do hard, uncomfortable things?
Oh, absolutely, mate. Like nothing in life that is worth it is easy. Like even when you were saying with your health and all that stuff, like another thing that a lot of people don't think about is they say I have no time. And it's like, well, if you're just going with the fast food and saving yourself a few minutes or an hour a day over a period of time, and then you get to your 60s and you're bedbound because you've had all these issues, you've lost 10, 20 years of your life. So like, it's also time is another thing as well. It's that
then you really have no time.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of instant gratification with those sort of things, and the delayed gratification is actually good. Like doing the program that I offer, it's the foundation stuff. I'm just planting the seed, because a lot of these are skills that a lot of people haven't been taught, or they've forgotten it because of society feeding them whatever information they have. That's like, well, no, we don't do it this way. I would challenge anybody that's listening to it now to think about a time that they've had a challenging conversation with someone. They've gone in thinking they can just manage it, and it just falls apart because the other person's come back with an answer that you did not expect.
Yeah, that's huge, man. I'm really glad you bring up that point. And one thing about these programs too that I thought of while you were talking about that, when you're talking about the time pieces, this is an investment they can make today that is going to have trickle down effects on their team, on their company, on their organization for as long as they implement it. And one thing that makes me think of that is there is leadership happening in either a positive direction or a negative direction all the time in an organization. I think that's something people don't realize. They think of leadership as this exclusively positive thing, that it's either there or it's not there. I'm more of the mindset that leadership is always there. It's either just done very well in driving the team forward, or it's done very poorly in driving the team backward. And I'm sure you've seen this, like the effect that a bad leader or just an absent negative leader can have on a group is profound in not good ways. So it's happening regardless. And these companies are committing themselves to this trickle-down effect of, if you have a leader who's not confident, who's not capable, maybe they even have good intentions, though sometimes I see leaders with poor intentions as well. Even if they have good intentions, though, they may just not know what to do. And because of that, they can become emotionally reactive, emotionally explosive. They may have bad habits themselves. They may not be leading themselves correctly, which is going to influence the team to lead themselves in the way that they see their leader leading themselves. So just like we talk about with the gym and with nutrition, these leadership skills extend beyond just what you're doing in the workplace. If you're showing up to work late, not dressed well, just rolled out of bed, you roll in with a donut and a Twinkie for breakfast, things like this. And I'm not trying to place judgment on people, but if you as a leader, if that's how you show up to the team's going to think that's the standard, and they're going to adopt that standard. Whereas if you train somebody in how to be a powerful leader, and in your case, how to be a powerful human, they can show up well rested, they can show up well dressed, on time, with a good, healthy meal. The team's going to see that and say, man, that's cool. I want more of that. And yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a process, but one thing at our at one of the companies I work for, that I have a team I lead there, is I started there about a year and 3 months ago. And I'm not even in a designated leadership position at all. I just show up as a leader because I view myself as a leader in any relationship. That doesn't mean I'm top dog in every relationship, but it means that I have the potential to help lead up and down the chain of command. And so I show up, you know, and I always meal prep. I'm always training in the gym, you know, and I've got these habits we've built through Impossible Performance. And talking about cold plunging now, I always talk about what I'm doing. I never force it on people and say, oh, you have to do this or else you're wrong. I just show people, these are my habits. This is the outcome. People see that for long enough, they start wanting that outcome. And I don't do this as like, I don't say that, I'm not saying this is a major testament to me, but since I've been there, we've had 2 employees completely stop vaping. We've had 3 employees who were very heavy drinkers, not like raging alcoholics necessarily, but very heavy drinkers, have totally gotten sober, totally off alcohol. And another 2 employees who have started a devotional practice and gotten strong roots in Christianity. You know, and again, I'm not saying that's the answer for everybody, but look at that positive change. Oh, and beyond all that, like half the staff are meal prepping now because they were all shopping at the Speedway, the gas station food right beside this company's location. When I got there, that's pretty much where everybody ate lunch. It's not even tasty food, and it's not cheap, and it's just horrendous for you. But eventually people, and I never told people, hey, that's horrible for you, you shouldn't eat that. But eventually people just saw what I was doing. They asked questions. I tell them, yeah, it's cheaper, saves time, it makes you feel so much better, you know, all these benefits. And now they're all doing it. And it's so cool to see. But that's just an example of like where a leadership dynamic can take a team. Because I could have shown up, I could have been vaping, I could have been drinking like crazy too. You know, I could have been all of these things, and I could have pulled the team more in that direction. And yeah, that's all things kind of in their personal life, but it 100% affects the dynamic of the organization. If you have happy, healthy employees, they're going to be so much more driven to 10x their output when they're in the workplace, as opposed to if they're hungover, eating crappy food, you're not going to get as much out of them. So I think we need to be able to look at our employees not as just a static resource that always has X amount of output, regardless of what the inputs are. Nothing in a business is that way. So, and especially our staff, our employees are the least that way. So we have to be able to look at them as the more I put into them, the more they're going to give me back, and the more happy and healthy individuals they're going to be. It is just a circuitous relationship that creates the very best of potential in an organization, in my opinion. But I wanted to check and see with you, like, have you seen those effects in the workplace? I know you've seen it in your own personal experiences we talked about on the last episode, but what kind of effects do you see when people really start implementing this?
So I've actually seen within my leadership group in my organization, I work with about 15, 16 different ANUMs at the same level as me. And I remember having a conversation with a staff member about, they'd only been here a few months, and I was like, how are you finding it? And they essentially were like, you know, the days can be different depending on who's in charge. And I was like, how so? And they said, you know, some people, and they didn't mention names or anything, but they're like, some days I come in and I see this ANUM and I know it's going to be a more challenging day because I don't feel as comfortable to talk to them about my concerns or my problems. It just feels like a harder grind to be able to have those conversations. But on the other hand, there are some ANUMs who are very good with being approachable, and they come up and they check on me and they ask how I'm going, and you know, they're a little bit more proactive in checking in how I am rather than the previous ANUM. They're kind of coming in when they're already waist shoulder deep, you know, under pressure. Yeah. So I just found that really interesting for myself. Is like, well, I was kind of, well, which side of the fence am I on at the moment? And I'd like to think that I was on more the positive side of having those conversations with people. And, you know, it's a small deposits, like you were saying, doing the meal prep, having a positive attitude, you know, saying the right things to people. It's all little deposits over time. And I'm pretty sure we said this in the last video. It's all an accumulation of simple little acts over a long period of time. And then you'll see the people converting to a religion, the people that stop vaping, the people that are stopping alcohol. there just gets to a paradigm shift in their brain that it's like, I don't want to be this person anymore. And Matt, you've set a good example for your team. They're like, that's it, I'm there. And I see that with the nurses too, is that as they've progressed, they want to be the leader that they feel more comfortable to approach, opposed to the leader that they don't want to approach. So they work out on traits and attitudes and ideas of, well, what do I need to do to be that leader?
Yeah. I really, really love that, man. And I think it resonates with this idea that, and I think maybe that helps with the limitations, is just explain to people like, look, leadership is happening in your organization, whether you like it or not. It is happening. Just like you bring up the plumbing example, you are going to have plumbing in your facility, whether you like it or not. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's a legal requirement at this point to have running water, so you can either maintain it and take care of it and have it last as long as possible with minimal interruption, minimal damage, minimal expense, or you can just totally neglect it for as long as possible until something totally explodes, may flood the whole building. You may have product loss. I mean, it could be catastrophic. It could end a business, how bad that loss could be. It's the exact same thing with leadership. Leadership is a living dynamic inside of a company or organization. And it's not like you've just got this default dynamic right now, and you could put money into it and maybe get a little better leadership. That's not how that's not how it works. This is a living, breathing dynamic that's going on inside your company. And it's just like the plumbing. You can either they can pay somebody like you a little bit of money now to help optimize it and keep it as healthy as possible long term, and they're going to get 10x ROI out of that, or they can neglect it and let bad leaders come in, poor leaders come in, poorly trained leaders come in, and let that culture slowly deteriorate over the time to the point that you say they have massive turnover. They have employees who are burnt out. They have employees who get mental health injury. All of these things are 10, if not 20, 30 times more expensive to mitigate and recover from than just a little bit of preventative work that not only boosts the dynamic of the team, but it just helps the health and wellness of the people inside. And who are you as a company, as an organization, if you don't care highly about just the health and wellness and happiness of your people? Do you ever see that as a potential roadblock, just companies who aren't invested in their people as much as they need to be?
Yeah, so in my blog, I mentioned of a business that I did work with. So a couple of years ago, when I was starting up, I was doing a few freebies to try and get my name out there. And this company said, yep, we're more than happy for you to come in to do a session. I did a 1-hour session on emotional intelligence and conflict management. And that was 20 months ago now. I've revisited that company and offered my services again, and they haven't had anything since. And one interesting thing I found was I looked at their roster, and the staff there was about 12 staff that went to that session on that evening. 75% have gone. They've left. Some left and I asked I was a bit sneaky and asked the colleagues, I'm like, well, where'd this person go? Where'd this person go? Some just went to a different place because, grass was greener for them. One person left because she wanted to move up the chain and she wasn't getting it, so she left. A couple left because, they just had enough of the workplace that they worked in and they moved to somewhere else. And like, the idea of that is like it can cost anywhere between 50 to 120% of someone's yearly wage to replace one individual. And I find that staggering that and some people are like, well, governments give payouts and stuff to be able to find people. But I'm like, well, if the governments knew that they're paying that much money all the time to replace staff when there's preventative measures like a maintenance tool, like someone like myself or people working in similar industries who would be charging a significantly amount less per person and having a couple of contacts a year just to refresh their memory on how to have a conversation and what does it look like to be a good leader and how can we chink things a bit to make you a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
putting in the effort to look at that.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. And I'm glad you said it, because I was going to ask you, like, I wonder if we could leverage AI to help us figure out some numbers on like what this looks like financially when you let this leadership ecosystem get out of control and get neglected, because it has to be staggering. You talk about up to 125% of an employee's salary just to replace them. And I wonder if that even factors in the time and training and how to do the job and building the experience and everything like that, because that's where turnover, I think, really crushes. It's, not only is it you lose an employee, and then you've got to, pay and go through hiring and sales and HR and run all of those mechanisms, which all cost money to onboard somebody new. But then now you're faced with this. You had an experienced employee, and now you've got somebody who may have never done this job before. And even if they do have experience, they still have to be trained in the unique dynamics of this company and this organization. So now you've got to train somebody fresh, which takes what, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. I'll say in the company I was speaking about earlier, it takes about 2 years to like fully train somebody to be 100% integrated, knowledgeable, and understanding of the operations. Here's the thing. I bet we have maybe 25% of the staff that stays for 2 years. It's a very high turnover industry. And I've got some separate thoughts about why that is and how we could alleviate that as well. But we don't need to go down that path. The thing is this turnover is so unbelievably expensive from a time and a financial standpoint. So it'd be cool to put together maybe like a whole resource of exactly what that cost looks like on paper. You factor in every cost from the HR onboarding perspective, from the training perspective, from the time it takes. And if you could really put some numbers together for that, I think that would be stark for people. And here's the thing is, if people are choosing to come at this from a fear-based perspective, a limitation-based perspective, well, my God, you look at numbers like that, and you're going to see that's where the real fear lies, is in that turnover, both in cost and time. And if you want to alleviate that fear now, you have the opportunity to do that today by bringing on somebody like you, Dan, to help train their team. Or if you're just an individual listening to this and you're not necessarily representing a company or an organization, hop into Dan's group, Making Human Skills Matter, because it's still free to join, correct, Dan?
Yeah, mate, and I'm still building on my free content.
Okay, and do you have tiers within that, or do you sell paid courses? How's the payment structure look?
Currently there isn't a pay structure. I'm working on putting together my workshop that I do for businesses. I'm working away how I can integrate it to school to make it necessarily not for individuals but for teams as well, so they could, I don't have to be at every site. And going international is a big thing for me. But at the moment it's easier to sell a course to someone and have it in a room and have people grow that way. So I'm still early doors in my entrepreneur journey and working out things that will work. And if anybody's got any ideas, put a comment down here, please, because I'd love
drop them down there for sure.
I'd love some inspiration. But just an added point to like the downstream effects of like having people leave, especially in small businesses, like all those things with HR, it's generally the manager that has to do it, or the owner of the business. So your interview time, you're going through everyone's CVs, the staff have to make up the shortfall. And like he said, you might have someone who's only been there for 2-3 months now has to step in someone's role that's been there for 2 years. What's the downstream effect for the rest of the team? Yeah, because they haven't got the skills to be able to help everyone else. Yeah. So everyone's having to pull this.
They're going to get burnout. Yeah, they're going to get burnout. They're going to get frustrated. Cycle. Yeah,
it's a snowball effect, and this is what that small business is in the middle of going through, is that they're now getting a lot of junior staff coming through, trying to take on more with no extra resources. So it's a big cost. It's a big cost thing to everybody by not putting in the maintenance work.
Yeah, it really is, and it's profound. And I think people just don't see it. They don't recognize it. It's become so common that they just see it as, oh, this is just a regular part of owning a business. And it's like, well, yeah, those are functions within a business, but it's not something you have to dedicate and devote this much time to. One thing I really learned from Hormozy that he's big on is one, two is, and obviously this is not necessarily as heavily involved in this discussion, but he talks about he pays when he onboards people top down. So from his CEO of his company all the way down to the janitorial staff. And not saying that anybody is more or less than anybody else, but generally that's, a difference in payment structure or salary structure. So everybody within the context of his organization generally makes 2 times the average market cap for that position. And people look at that and they think, oh, that's crazy. Why would you pay these people double when salary is the biggest overhead? And he says, look, when I offer double the salary, I get my pick of anybody who can do that job on the planet. Because who's not going to go work? Like if you're an ER nurse and somebody offers you a job for double the salary you're making now, you're going to be pretty strongly motivated to go take that job, because why would I not do the same work I'm doing now and then get paid twice as much for it? Like that's a no-brainer for pretty much anybody. And so it allows him to really filter, and he'll get thousands of applications and he can go through and say no to 98% of them, and then really pick the cream of the crop, the very top 1% to 2% in that industry. Then he brings in interviews and really figures out like who is not just really good at this job, but really good at human skills and is going to be a good leader, is already put together, already has these things that I can't necessarily teach them, but they've already got it locked down. They've got these human skills locked down, and then I'll bring them onto the company. He says, I generally get about 10x output from paying 2x salary. So he's like, that's a no-brainer from a business decision. And I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you think about any industry, think about, even your own workplace. If you guys are listening to this, there are likely some people in there who are low-level performers, people who are average level performers, mid-level, and then people who are very high level performers. I'm sure we can all think of at least one person there who is just like on absolutely everything. You give them a task, it's getting done, no questions asked. They're never starting drama, never starting fights. I'm sure we can all think of at least one person we know in our industry like that. Now, imagine if you had an entire team of that person, how the dynamic of your organization would change. Likely you could hire much fewer people, probably a third to half as few people, because of how much more output you're getting. And that's going to save you cost down the road. That's going to save you time in the turnover. It's going to save you in so many of these areas. But not only that, you don't have to make this radical dynamic shift and change in your workplace environment. You could just train your people who are here now to be that high performer through services like what Dan's offering. So Dan, I want to, before we wrap things up here, I want to transition this into into some lines of talking on, because I'm hoping there's going to be some businesses who are considering working with you listen to this, so that they can see exactly where the constraints lie for them, and where they may think they lie, but it's really not actually the constraint that they think it is, but most especially where they can see the true benefit and the true value. So I want to take a moment to chat about when a company signs on to you with one of your workshops, what would that process look like for them as far as what they get out of it, what their people get out of it, and where exactly is this value? Where does this value lie? And how is this workshop going to be able to change the dynamic of their organization?
So currently my structure is I've got the 6 topics. So like I said at the start, I've got the emotional intelligence, I have conflict and communication, resistance to change, a little bit on grit and resilience, psychological safety, feedback, boundaries, and everyday leadership. I make them short and sharp because my job is to plant the seed. I don't want to overwhelm people. If you go, like anyone that's been to a leadership day, you get to lunchtime and you're done. So mine's short, sharp, to the point, with maybe 2 or 3 points to take out of it. A lot of reflection as well, because like we said earlier, it is overwhelming to challenge yourself. Okay. But by reflecting and kind of understanding, actually, there is a gap in my knowledge and this will help it, it gives that people that motivation to be a little better. Then I'll just have, a few Q&As and chat it out with the team. And then I leave the ball in their court. They all get a certificate of professional development, because that's one thing that everyone likes to have on their wall, that they've made the effort. But then I'll give them summary sheets with a whole heap of different scenarios that are similar to their workplace, so they can practice it. So having a challenging conversation, like I said at the start, it's all about the reps. It's punching out the reps. The more you can practice it in a safe environment with a colleague about common sort of practices or common problems, when it is crunch time, when it's competition time, when the pressure's on your shoulders, you've got that confidence that I can have that conversation. And confidence comes from being able to do the work. Mm-hmm. And it's the result of putting in the effort. So my goal is, I don't want to overcomplicate things. I want to keep it simple. And I'll follow up with them too. So if teams want to follow up, I'll follow up with them a week or two later and go, okay, you probably didn't have questions then. You do now. Bring them at me and let's work through it together. Like, I'm trying to be a bit of a coach and helping them through. It's not just I do my workshop and off I go, see you later, good luck. I want them to succeed, so I'm going to do that follow-up with them.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. And if you're a business listening right now, I want you to go back and listen to that section again. And these 6 core aspects that Dan talks about, think about each of those individually and how you see it in your team dynamic, because I will guarantee you see each of those in one way or another. And very likely what most organizations are struggling with right now is a lot of those are not checked off to a very positive high degree. And that's, I don't want any of this to sound like we're coming at organizations or business owners or leaders or anything. That's nobody's fault necessarily. But if there is an issue here, if there's a problem here, it can be alleviated. It can be fixed. It can be led in a better direction. And Dan is the perfect guy to bring in to help you do that from the ground level. And I'm so glad, Dan, because I was going to ask about this. I'm so glad that you do offer that follow-on, because like you said, as good as this workshop is, it's likely not just going to fix every single problem a company has in 3-4 hour period. Is that how long it generally runs?
So each of my sessions, so like a lot of businesses may not feel that all 6 are appropriate to them at one time. A lot of them want like 1 or 2 in an hour session, because time's money for a lot of businesses too. And I get that. So I try and make it flexible by saying, hey, I can come in for half an hour. A half hour time's fine. We can have a talk about it. If you want it a bit longer, I can stay and do some Q&As. But yeah, it's not, I'm going to come and do a whole study day. Some people do, and that's okay. I find people get a bit flushed out by the end of the day. So short, sharp, to the point sort of stuff has been really beneficial for businesses, and that's the feedback I've been getting. And then, so they can kind of pick and choose. Like if they find 4 are relevant to them, I could come in and do a 2-hour session on all of them. If they want me to elaborate on one, I can extend it. Like that's the joy of having this sort of my own business. I don't have a company's just archives and I come and present what's in the files. Like if a business said, hey, we really want to work more on psychological safety, can you give us a bit more than half hour? Sweet. I've got stuff here that I can bring over. And that's the joy of being the solopreneur that I am, is that I can add a bit more to it if people feel like they need it. If they just want to try the half hour one and see and they like it and they want more, I can do that too.
Yeah. So this is, for any of you guys listening, this is even increased value for you, because not only do you get this full training program, but you can tailor it exactly to your organization's needs, which you're not going to get with a lot of bigger companies. So that's a really powerful point to think about. But as Dan said, he offers this follow-on to where he doesn't just show up, do the presentation and leave and you never hear from him again, because likely, as he said, you're going to have questions about it. It's not something that's just totally easy and natural and we'll just implement effortlessly with no issues. There's going to be questions. There's going to be things that come up where you're like, man, I really wonder how I should handle this situation that's going on. And the fact that you make yourself available, Dan, for those situations that do arise is powerful. If somebody were going through, and I imagine this is something you'd be able to offer, but if somebody were wanting to really commit to this process and say, you know what, I'm ready to build a positive culture in my organization. I'm ready to really turn things around and start treating this from a proactive approach so that I can give the most to my people and they will give the most to me and my customers in return. Would you be willing to offer somebody, say, like a 6-week course intervention, for example, or maybe you come in an hour a week and then you have this like follow-on each hour, you talk about one of those different aspects you talk about? Is that something for the right value point and price point you'd be willing to offer one of these organizations?
Absolutely. Like if someone wants to sit down and have a one-on-one with me and really work on building those things, I'm happy to go through the individual topics with that one person. I have done previous coachings where I've break it up into a few sessions over a period of time. And that's probably where I'm trying to lean my school community towards, is for emerging and consolidated leaders, have that program on school when you can sign up through there and build through it. But currently it's not live yet, but it's probably in the next month it's going to come up. So in the meantime, jump on to Make Human Skills Matter onto school. And there's lots of other high-performing people like yourself, Matt, who are on that page, who are adding value and sharing their experiences in their organization. Like I have, there's Director of Operations in Healthcare. There's Sean Zeem, someone that's in my community who always is giving value. He's a great man. I have people that work in health. I have people that work their own businesses. I have people that work corporate. There's all these amazing individuals who are more than happy to share their stories. I've got people that have worked corporate and have retired and are happy to share their stories. So come into the community. You can chat to so many people and learn from them to start with. And they all have communities too. Like I'm not the guru on my own. There are a lot of really smart people out there, and my platform allows you to connect with others as well. So you've got all these avenues. It's completely free, regardless of like when my program comes in, that's a separate thing, but everything's free. And I'm adding onto my classroom. So there's always more to add, even with frameworks and structures of how to have challenging conversations that you can try yourself. So I find it great. I have fun being there, but I'm learning so much from everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I can definitely attest to that. Being in Dan's community, it's a really unique community that is geared toward one specific aspect of human function and growth. But at the same time, there's just such an expansive dynamic to it beyond that, as far as like the brightness and the happiness that people show up with and the excitement they show up with, which you don't see on all communities. And I'll even admit it's something I need to work on in my own community as well, just bringing some of that air of excitement to things. And I think we said on the last podcast, but that's something Dan does really, really well in his community. So Dan, I want to thank you for being on today. Any final pieces that you wanted to add for anybody out there listening?
The second part of my blog's coming out later this week.
Oh,
so
heck yeah.
with you, Matt.
Yeah.
So I'll share that link with you, Matthew, at the end of this episode. And all of it's going on Substack, which is a nice little growing platform at the moment. So I just find it very helpful to just put my blog on, and it just makes life so much easier for me. It's doing better than my own website. So
oh wow.
Get on the school, get on the Substack. It's got all my socials are on those 2 pages, and you can get all the information you need from me there. So that'd be my last
awesome
point,
man. Perfect. Well, hey guys, thank you for tuning into this episode. There was so much good content to this episode. Anybody listening, whether you're involved in an organization or not, you've got 3 action items here, and I want you to take advantage of all 3 of these. First, simple, easy, free. There is no barrier to entry for you, and it will 100% make an improvement on your life. Click the top link in the show notes here. Jump into Dan's community, Making Human Skills Matter. You can learn more about who he is, what he's about, the things he teaches, and you get involved in a whole network and community of people that are all coming at the same message from different perspectives. So That is a no-brainer. Jump into his community now. And if you're considering hiring him on as a client, this is a great way to get to know him and who he is, what he teaches, and what he can provide your organization. Second is check out Dan's Substack and get more in-depth reading and training into exactly how the nuance of all this works. You can subscribe to the Substack and have your whole team read it if you want. Have them all subscribe if they want. And just doing that will provide a positive moving direction in this leadership and human skills training that he offers. Third step is, if you are a company or an organization listening to this and Dan's approached you, or you've considered having some type of leadership training or human skills training, or if you just know that the dynamic within your organization is not as optimal as you would like to see it, just shoot Dan a message. Again, it's free. It's very easy. Dan will put your website and your email and everything else down there as well, so people can reach you however they need. Just shoot him an email, shoot him a message him directly on School if you're on that platform. And I know he'd love to talk to you and really help you understand the value here, because this is something that's not just the extra thing you can add on if you have the space for it. You would never treat your plumbing that way. You would never treat your electrical units that way. You would never treat your inventory that way. We absolutely cannot treat our staff that way. Our staff, our employees, our people have to be the highest priority. And this is something you can do that will improve their experience, make them stronger, healthier, more effective leaders, and ultimately will give you a much higher output from them than you've ever seen before. So shoot Dan a message. All three of these things are very easy, low barrier to entry items. I want you to take advantage of all three. All the links will be below in the show notes. Thank you guys for listening. The number one thing that I ask of you guys personally, the only thing I will ever ask, is if you got something out of today's episode, please copy and paste this link and share it with as many people as you know whom you believe it would also help, because that is how we spread the word of everything we're doing with Impossible Performance. So thanks for being here today, Dan. Thank you guys for listening. And as always, yep, anytime, man. We'll do many more of these, I'm sure. So I love it. But thank you guys for listening. And as always, be impossible.